ultimately, the ability to learn a language it still comes down to the three keys that I refer to so often. Hi there, Steve Kaufman here. Today I want to talk about the role of talent in language learning. Remember, if you enjoy these videos, please subscribe and click on the bell for notifications. So, if any of you out there have learned even one or more languages to a fairly decent level, you have undoubtedly had people tell you, you have a talent for languages. And the people who say this to you are typically people who don't speak other languages. Someone who already speaks 2 or 3 languages is unlikely to say that because they know that learning another language takes a lot of effort. So the typical person who says you have a talent for language either hasn't put a lot of effort into learning a language or is stuck with a method of language acquisition which isn't very efficient. They go to the library language Spanish class 3 times a week or something. People who are successful at language learning, they typically will do a lot of listening and reading and put a lot of effort. Very few people will do what I do, which is to get up every morning and listen to whatever language I'm learning and listen an hour a day while working out, while cleaning up, and do a lot of reading and put in an hour or 2 every day into language learning. Few people do that. So typically, people who say you just have a talent for language are kind of trying to justify the fact that they haven't been willing to put that degree of effort or to look for more efficient ways of learning. But is there a talent for language learning? I think it's possible that there are varying degrees of ability to learn another language, and a number of things influence that. First of all, the more languages you know, the better you become at learning languages. Your brain is more flexible, you are more open to new sounds, new structures, you don't resist the new language. You're more confident that you can do it. You have some ideas of methods that for language learning that work, at least for you. So you're a better language learner. So that's obviously going to influence, but that's not so much talent as ability. It's not sort of an inherent talent for language learning. Another thing that influences our ability to learn is the degree to which we're exposed to the language. So if you go to Sweden, where kids watch television in English and listen to English language, pop music and so forth, they have so much exposure to English before they start that in Sweden, just about everybody speaks English. So is it that the Swedes have some gene for language learning? I don't think so. And it's similar in other places where people are exposed to a lot of languages, like in Singapore or apparently in Ethiopia, although I've never been there. So the amount of exposure you get influences your ability to learn a language. But that's not necessarily the same as talent. I think ultimately, the ability to learn a language it still comes down to the 3 keys that I refer to so often. The attitude of the learner, time spent with the language, and the ability to notice. And I'll leave a link to a video that I just did on the subject of noticing in language acquisition. But obviously, attitude. As I said, someone who's learned a few languages has a positive attitude. They think language learning is worthwhile doing, worthwhile spending a lot of time at. They're confident that they will achieve success. Typically, they like the language they're learning. So these attitude factors are much more important than any potential differences in talent. The same with time. You can't learn languages without putting in the time. Some people are more willing to put in time than others. Noticing is something that comes with a good attitude and putting in the time. So, my point really is, it's a bit like the discussion, can older people learn languages? Like here I am, 75. Is a 20-year-old a better language learner than I am? It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. We can all learn, even if we assume that some people are more talented or that a 20-year-old is better than a 75-year-old. It doesn't mean that a potentially less talented person can't learn. If this theoretically less talented person has a good attitude, is interested in the language, likes the language, believes that learning the language is worthwhile doing, believes they're going to get there, believes in the method they're using, and if that person puts in the time, and then develops, is really keen on noticing what's happening in the language, that person will learn. And if that person is slightly less talented than someone else, maybe not as good at imitating the sounds or at remembering vocabulary, that person will still learn. So to tell someone who has learned 3 or 4 languages, oh, you're just talented in languages, that's a cop-out, because that very person who is saying, oh, you're just talented, like, I'm not, you are, if they were to have a positive attitude, put in the time, be motivated to notice what's happening in that language, to accept that language rather than resisting it, that person will learn. And if you take 10 people, some will learn better than others, some will pronounce better than others, some will speak better than others, but those differences are relatively small compared to the differences that come from the sort of differences in attitude, differences in time spent, differences in methods used for language learning. So therefore, I would dismiss talent as an important consideration in language learning. It's something that, even if there are differences, we can't control those differences. But what we can control is our attitude, the time we spend, and to some extent, flowing from that, our ability to notice what's happening in the new language and therefore to acquire that language or several more languages. So there you have it. That's my take on talent and language learning, and I suggest you have a look at the video I did on noticing, and look forward to your comments. Thank you. Bye for now.